Hello, guys, and welcome to the first episode of the Filbert Way on YouTube. I'm joined by an old friend and Leicester City fanatic, Joseph Smythe, and we've got BBC Radio Leicester commentator and most importantly, Fox's fan, Owynn Palmer-Atkin. How are we doing today, guys?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Not too bad, not too bad.
Got an absolutely massive game on Saturday in Leeds. Biggest of the season. Joe, how are you feeling after going to a loss? It seems like we've become a bit of a sore loser recently because we don't lose too much. Lost on the
I think
on the weekend, but going into Leeds, how are you feeling about that one?
I'm not overly confident, to be honest. I think most big games this season have been a bit of a disappointment. Like when you look at both Ipswich games, the Leeds home game. Um, so it's going to be an interesting one. And I think with Leeds especially because I think they're probably the team to beat at the moment. Obviously Southampton there as well, but the way Leeds play and the way we play is a complete contrast to each other. And like we saw in the first game, it's an exciting game to watch. Just both teams going at it.
And Owen, we had a chat before we came on the Zoom. Both of us saying again, well, I didn't feel overly confident, but I think out of the three of us, you seem the most confident there. How do you think we'll attack this game, and how do you think this one will go? If you can
Yeah,
provide the fortune.
it's going to be an interesting one because Leeds have been in such good form. They're one of the only sides that have beaten Leicester this season in the Championship. Only you can't. There ain't too many sides to look at that have actually beaten Leicester. So it's going to be really interesting. But I just feel after they lost against Middlesbrough, it will be the kickstart maybe for this final part of the season that they need. I mean, you look at Leicester City as their season has gone on. They're a side that every time they've been beaten, they've got up, they've dusted themselves off. Other than those back-to-back defeats, I think it was against Leeds and Middlesbrough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah,
Other than those two games, they've always got up and dusted themselves off and gone on another brilliant run of form. So hopefully that will be the same coming off the back of this Middlesbrough defeat and into this Leeds game, because it is, as you rightly say, it's absolutely massive.
Yeah, it's easily the biggest game of the season getting near the stretch. And I think it's the old cliche everyone said they're due a loss. And the style I wanted to move on to the style of play with Leicester, because you've got a lot of fans. Me personally, I'm a massive fan of Enzo's style of play, and a lot of fans aren't really. They say it's a bit slow. But if it's true that we do play slow, will that play into Leicester's hands to kill off the Elland Road atmosphere, Joe, in the early stages of the game?
yeah. I think a game like this is the best game for our style. Really, I think at home the reason fans probably get a little bit bored is because you've got teams come to the King Power and put 10 men behind the ball when they're playing for a draw, and then it's on us trying to break them down, which can be a bit of a task. But when you've got a team that are going to come out and actually attack you, that can suit us more because then there's more space in behind. And like we saw, I think the home games this year, Sunderland came out to go. That was a more exciting game to watch. I don't think anyone was complaining there. Then the Leeds home game as well. It's when teams actually come out and try and attack against us, it gets a bit exciting and our style of play looks a bit better then. It's just when teams park the bus, that's when it's a bit dire to watch.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And even in the first game, even though it was only 1-0, we've seen a lot of end-to-end action going on. And again, in different circumstances, albeit last season at Elland Road, killed off the atmosphere. Leicester seemed to get in a little bit. Owen, how important do you think it's be that we do that on Friday night?
Yeah, I think whenever you go to Elland Road, an early goal is always important. If you can go and get an early goal, then you find yourself in a little bit more control of the game, as you would ever, but especially at Leeds, where because their atmosphere is so vociferous, it can also go the other way, and it can work against the team if they do go a goal down. So an early goal would be massive. But actually, I agree with what you guys are saying. Leeds play such a vicious style of football, really, isn't it? They play very much end to end. It's similar-ish to Jurgen Klopp in the idea, not necessarily the way they do it, but in the idea of that it's almost all-out attack. And Leicester's more pragmatic approach might be the way to deal with it. One thing they will have to guard against, though, is the press. I don't think they've quite mastered dealing with teams that press against them so far this season. I think when teams generally sit in, bar the Middlesbrough game on Saturday, they tend to do okay. They're more than capable because of the quality they have of breaking teams down. But when teams come and really try and have a go at them, I think it's very different for them. They don't play against it all that often. So again, it's going to be a massive game. It's going to be a really interesting game tactically to see how this one actually works, because if they deal with the press well and if they get an early goal, Leicester could go on to 3 points. It's probably one of those games though that it's more important. It's more important to not let Leeds win more than anything.
I think exactly what you were saying. I thought a draw, I'd have snapped your hand off at a draw, and you shouldn't really be saying that when you're sitting top of the league. But I think especially after last night as well, I'm not sure if you guys were keeping across the Southampton score heavily, but it was on in the background quite a lot. And after I saw them lose, I kind of feel like a weight was lifted a bit. Like I don't think the pressure's going to be as strong anymore now that Southampton have dropped another 3 points, being a game in hand as well. Joe, do you think, again, the players probably don't look into stuff like that, but do you think that will have an effect on the game with Southampton dropping points?
You'd like to think Enzo's probably got them screwed on to not worry about too much what other teams are doing and just make sure they go out and do their job. I think it's definitely important we avoid defeat, because obviously we've got some tough games coming up now. Over the next 10 games, we've got West Brom, Southampton, Hull, Blackburn. These are all decent teams. So we really need to respond after a loss last week and get back to winning ways in this massive game, and give them the confidence just to finish the job in these next few difficult weeks.
Exactly. There's not many games coming left. And lastly, I was just going to say, I was, again, looking over social media. I mentioned this to you again earlier, Owynn. Looking over Twitter or Instagram, you'd think Leicester had already lost the game. Do you think that can play into Enzo's team's hands as almost the underdog for the first time this season, it seems, looking at socials?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they will be the underdog. I think when you take into the consideration Leicester's form so far this season, especially their kind of bounce back ability and where they are in the table, obviously, I don't know whether they will officially be the underdogs, but going to Leeds United is always a tough ask. And if Leicester can channel that a little bit and go there, it might rev up the away fans a little bit more. The Leeds fans will be perhaps more expectant if this is the case. But I think this is all about now trusting Enzo's system. If you trust the pragmatism, if you trust the way that he set this team up to play and how they have done over the course of already what are we on now? Game day 34, is it? So they've played so well over 30 plus games. And if you trust that pragmatism, I think you have to look at it and go, this is a game that Leicester City are more than capable of winning. Do Leeds United have threats? Of course they do. Are they capable of winning this game? Of course they are. But Leicester City do have quality. Leeds have quality. And it's going to be a really good test, because these two sides could be in the Premier League again next year. And with the Leeds game and the Bournemouth game on Tuesday in the FA Cup, I'm really interested to see how Enzo and this team deal with that kind of pressure and deal with playing against a calibre of player that are greater than in the Championship ahead of next season, because at the end of the day, that's where they want to be next season, in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's true. I 100% agree. And I think for a neutral on Friday, it's going to be probably one of the games that you want to watch, but I'll definitely be behind my sofa for the 90 minutes, I think.